Hey guys, today I want to go over 17 gameplay mechanics that every player of Battlefield 2042 should know, and that can not only be helpful for yourself, but also for your team and squad. So let's get right in. Number 1, when toggling Q on PC, R1 on PlayStation or RB on Xbox while your crosshair is pointed at an area or at a target, you can spot enemies with a red dot above their heads for yourself and for your squad members, and as a red dot on the minimap for the rest of your team. These spottings will only last for a short amount of time, and you can also only spot one enemy at once. So if there are several, you have to spot them one by one. When you quickly toggle the button twice, you can place a danger marker at the location your crosshair is pointing at that stays for a bit longer and is helpful in situations where a target has disappeared behind cover and you can't spot them directly anymore. But these markers are only visible for you and your squad and not for the whole team. In addition, spottings and markers also show the distance to a target, which can be helpful to judge your bullet drop as a sniper or when trying to counter an enemy vehicle on range with a rocket launcher. And this system also partly works when you are downed, cause then you can still look around and ping enemies as dangerous situations, but you cannot spot them anymore. The pings are only visible for your squad mates, but are still helpful as a warning when one of them wants to come for a revive. So when you are down and there is an enemy sitting in a corner, let your squad mate know by placing a danger marker. And as the one going for a squad revive, look out for these markers and check the area for enemies. And another helpful squad mechanic is the deploy warning that was just added with Season 6, cause when you are in combat and a squad mate tries to spawn at you, you will see a notification on the left hand side of the screen saying "In combat, squad deploy unavailable." When it pops up, try to seek cover if possible and wait for your squad mate to spawn. This can help in a lot of situations where you might get outnumbered or want to go for an objective and you would be on your own, so keep an eye out for it. Number 4 is another ping mechanic, but this time helpful for the ones reviving, cause when you point your crosshair at the revive icon of a downed team or squad mate and then toggle the ping button, you can let them know that you are coming for the revive. The downed soldier will then get highlighted for you, which helps to find them even through smoke, and they will receive a short message and an audio signal that a medic is incoming. When you are the one downed, all allies that are able to revive are also highlighted in blue or green, even on distance, so be sure to wait for a revive if possible and only skip it when there are too many enemies around. And one more tip for the medics: when you are reviving and there is an enemy coming or you're suddenly under fire, simply aim down sights or toggle the trigger button, cause then the revive will get cancelled. This makes you a lot less vulnerable when trying to keep your team alive, and you don't need to manually cancel the revive when there's danger close by. Now for number 6, another hint to the spotting system of Battlefield 2042, cause in addition to being manually spotted by enemies or by a gadget, you also reveal your position on the enemy's minimaps when firing your weapon. When you start shooting, you appear as a red dot; when you stop shooting, it disappears. So keep that in mind when trying to flank. A good option to reduce the self-spotting are the available suppressors, but their efficiency depends on the type and ammunition. When using a light suppressor like the Wrapped or 6KU, you will be hidden from the minimap for all enemies more than 40 meters away, and in combination with subsonic ammunition, this distance is reduced to 20 meters. The heavy suppressors like the PB or Type 4 on the other hand will hide you from all enemies more than 20 meters away at any time, and in combination with subsonics you will have full minimap stealth on all distances. The subsonics also have the advantage of lower muzzle flash visibility and no tracers, so the direction of your shots is harder to pin down. Unfortunately, this combination is not available on all weapons, and it also affects the damage and range a lot, so you should only use it when necessary. Still worth a try for sneaky flanks and when you primarily encounter enemies on close range. Another mechanic that can give away your position on the battlefield is the scope glint, and even though it can only be seen by enemies that are within your line of sight and more than 20 meters away, it's still something you should avoid if possible. It can appear on all kinds of weapons and only depends on the optic you use, so all optics with 4x zoom or more will produce a glint and all optics below won't. This means the M22 3.5x, for example, doesn't have it, but the Raven 4x has. The only exceptions from this are the Ghost Hybrid and the Target AT, because these two are hybrid scopes and can be switched between different magnifications from 1.25 up to 4.5, but they don't produce glint. So try to stick to optics with zoom lower than 4 times or to the Ghost Hybrid or Target AT, and only if really necessary use an optic with a higher magnification. What you should also be aware of is that your sprint to fire speed differs for the different sprint types. So when you walk or normally sprint, you can fire your weapon almost immediately, but when using the fast traversal sprint, you have a short delay. This is not unusual or surprising and a mechanic that appears in most other shooter games as well, but it's something you should know about, especially since there's an option for always use traversal sprint in the settings. So if you use this and you should seem to lose a lot of gunfights by 1 or 2 bullets, try to stick to the normal sprint and only use traversal sprint when necessary. This can help you to fire faster and be ahead of the enemy. Next up is tip number 9. You can throw back all grenades that do not detonate on impact and return them to the sender. This works for frags, mini, spring and AT grenades, and also for the proc sensors. When one of them is coming your way, just use E on PC, X on Xbox or square on PlayStation to throw them back. Each returned grenade will then deal damage to the enemies instead of your team, and the proc sensor will spot them. A throwable I can recommend to use in particular are the smoke grenades, because besides covering your revives and breaking lines of sight, they have 2 more major advantages. And the first one is that they extinguish fire from incendiary grenades. Just throw them at a burning teammate or a path that the enemies are trying to block, and the fire will be put out. This works with the normal smoke grenades, the smoke launcher or the underbarrel smoke, and as long as the smoke is present, all new incendiaries will be immediately extinguished as well. So very useful. And the second mechanic that probably not many players know about is that smoke also breaks all kinds of spottings. This means it avoids spotting attempts from all mechanics and gadgets that need line of sight, but also break existing spottings. Even the self-spotting when shooting that I had mentioned before is not working anymore. The only gadgets that can still spot you are the proc sensor and the tox, since they react to movement, and of course Pike with her EMGX scanner. But if you want to stay even more stealthy, smoke is your go-to. And another very useful throwable are the EMP grenades, because they will not only disrupt your enemy's HUD and will give you a lot of points, but also destroy enemy gadgets like Iris Shootdown Sentinel and Blasco's infiltration device. Plus they trigger damage states at vehicles, which means their engines, tracks or turrets get disabled. Moving on to tip number 13, be sure to take advantage of the small Levolution mechanics that you can find on almost all maps of the game. These can be sensors that spot and highlight enemies who pass through for your teammates, poles that block roads for enemy vehicles and only lower for the vehicles of your team, doors that can be lowered to block lines of sight and fortify position, bridges that can be controlled to create ways or remove them, and winches with which you can open new paths and lines of sight, but these are only available on discarded and remove parts of the ships at different locations. The others, however, are available on several maps, and you should always keep an eye out for them and use them to your advantage. When they are red, the enemy team has already taken control of them, and you should override the access either by directly interacting with the control panels or by enabling or disabling them from distance with Rao and his hacking ability. Next up is tip number 14. When you are the squad leader, give orders to attack or defend objectives, and when you are a squad member, be sure to follow them. I know squad play is not as present in Battlefield 2042 as it is in former titles, but mostly because it took the devs quite a while to implement the necessary mechanics. However, now we have them and we can all contribute to make squad play better. And one part is to give orders and follow them. Both does not only help you to have a better experience in the game, but also gives you additional XP. To tell your squad to defend or capture an objective, simply point your crosshair at its icon and press Q on PC, RB on Xbox or R1 on PlayStation. And then the given order will be shown on the left-hand side of the screen for all squad members. Another way to give orders is to use the comoros that you can access by holding the spotting button and then pull your mouse or stick down and select the objective. This menu is also helpful to communicate with your squad and team and request heals, resupplies and support, or simply thank someone for their help. If you should not give any orders for an amount of time, a countdown will start that is supposed to remind you on your squad leader role, and if you don't give any orders before it runs out, another member of the squad will be promoted. In addition to this, squad leaders are also able to open and close their squads in the squad management screen and also kick players from it. And at the end, 3 more short tips. Number 1, when you play as Falk or Angel, you can heal or resupply yourself by holding 3 on PC or D-pad left on controller. This also works with the med and ammo pouches, only that you need to hold 4 on PC or D-pad right on controller, since it's a different gadget slot. Number 2, you can use deployable gadgets like Iris Shootdown Sentinel or the Insertion Beacon as step ladders to get to higher grounds that you wouldn't be able to access otherwise, unless you play as McKay. So keep that in mind when playing Irish or one of the recon specialists. And number 3, and the last tip for today, you can unlock all of your weapon attachments in solo modes against AI, and you can complete weekly missions in Portal against AI. Here are some codes that you can simply host in the Portal menu, and for everything else, be sure to check out the video in the info box where I go a lot more into depth about how to unlock attachments faster and how to gain more XP. And that's a wrap for today's video. I hope you found these tips helpful and they can improve your experience in Battlefield 2042. And if that's the case, be sure to drop a like or a comment below and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Until then, thanks for watching and thanks to my members for the additional support. I'm the Catwoman and you are awesome.